Hello and welcome to this edition of Elvenhome. Lots in this edition, so we'll get straight into it. From tree making to scenic work, a PVA, watery test and a running session. So first of all, let's go on and have a look at the making of some trees. You may recall that one of the purchases that I made at Worley was from the Backman stand, a sort of starter kit for making your own trees. It's a Woodland Scenics starter kit, and so I thought I'd have a go at it because I'm starting to put trees onto the layout, and I also bought those trees from Primo models, and I've now taken them out of their boxes. Those of you that saw it would know that I had trouble even opening the box, but they are now removed. One of them is a pine and one of them is a fir, and I like them. They're really nice, and there are some already in place on the layout, and we'll go over to the layout in a moment once I've shown you this kit, because there's a few tips. It is a starter kit, and it's been helpful in just thinking a bit about how you use the tree armatures that are here. When I got home, I wanted to have a look at the model tree shop, which is based in the Borders. And I've bought 6 silver birches. I didn't think the trunks were very silver until I actually started putting them on the layout, and there's 2 of them in place on the layout now. That's going to form around the area of the hillside as it's up close to the canal. But I did want also to think about other trees that I might want to put in, particularly thinking about the graveyard at Grey Havens, where the trees that are currently there are looking very sickly. And anyway, they were early attempts at landscaping the graveyard, and I think better things can be done there. So I thought, as I was creating trees, I would start on this kit. I have to say, for £10, which is all this cost me at the show, this is a remarkable good value, because you get in the kit 25 armatures. So the ones over here are the fir trees, and I've only just, as I laid these out, realised that there are actually 4 sizes. You'll see I've made up 3 of them, which is the tallest, and then I think, let me just check, is it this one? No, it's the next size down, and then there's a further size which I didn't realise is an intermediate, and then the smallest, which is that one. And they have a wire insert to them, and you bend them. These you're supposed to bend in a kind of spiral way, and then apply a sticky glue, hobby tack, which it looks a bit like Copydex, but it doesn't smell like it. You let the glue dry till it's clear and tacky, and then you plunge it into one of the 3 packs of lump foliage, which is what this is. That's the one that's for the coniferous trees, and you have to break it up a bit because obviously some of it's quite lumpy, and you just press it then onto the trees and let them dry. At least that's the theory. I've not been wholly convinced that it holds it very well, so you can probably just see over there the hairspray has been at work. You are also given what they call fine leaf foliage, which is the thing that's over there, which looks to me a bit like sea foam that's been coloured, and you're supposed to strip it off and then sprinkle it over. Not convinced about that myself, but that could just be my incompetence. Turning to the deciduous trees, again there are 4 sizes I've just discovered. The biggest one, there's 3 of those. There's 3 of the intermediate size, and I've made up 2 of those, and I'll explain why in just a moment. There's, I can't remember, 6 or 7 of this size, and then there's a 4 really diddy ones. Now when I did the first 3 of these, which are the 3 in front, you do have to learn a bit about how you bend and twist the armatures to get a decent shape, because I'll use this one because I've done another one since. if you look at that from above, you can see that it's still very much along that plane. I've bent them a little bit since, but once you put all the leaf on it, it's a bit harder to develop it. And that helps me realize that actually you've got to be a bit bolder in the bending of the tree, because the one behind here, if I can pick this one up, is my second attempt. And there you can see it's exactly the same armature, but I've bent it more and I've twisted the limbs. Let's just get rid of that. I've twisted the limbs, not just bending them backwards and forwards, but some of them actually twisting them through almost 90 degrees to help me get the shape that I need for the tree better. And I've got one here that I was just starting working on, if I bring it into there, where you can just see how I'm starting to twist them and bend until I get a shape that I think looks vaguely like a tree, and then that one will be covered. I think those very likely will go over to be among the trees that are going to be up at High Elven. These, I certainly have my eye on one or more of these for the graveyard at High Elven, because I think that will really help. And I think more than one of those trees that are there now, as I look at them, will see the woodsman's axe before too long. So I thought I'd just show you this before I went up onto the layout, to show you various bits and pieces that I've done so far. And hopefully by the end of the video, you'll see them developed a bit more. Well, as you can see, I'm working on this area. I've paused. My initial thought was that I was going to put in all the trees and then do the ground cover underneath, because the trees would have, the ground cover would have come along a bit after, certainly the most recent ground cover. But I'm pausing and thinking whether that is the right way to do it. But no doubt by the end of the video, I'll have made my mind up. So at the moment I've got 3 silver birches and 1 fir tree in place up on the hill, and I think that's where all the other silver birches and firs are going to go, I think, and possibly some of the ones from the Woodland Scenics kit. I've put 2 trees here at the moment, and then there'll be some bushes and things there just to make the fence line essentially. But I will have to put a fence in there because I don't think it'd been wholly unfenced. And I've got to make up my mind what I want to put on this side, but I rather like the idea of the trains emerging through trees. I think that would look rather good. I've also started putting on this I think is meant to be moss, but it's very long moss, and it's meant to be engage, but it actually is much better as weeds. Maybe that is what it's meant to be, which is running along the top of the removable section, and that's hiding the join. What I probably will do is take this off in a bit and then run some more of this along the join edge so that one load of it sits over the top of the other to blend it in. The bit right at the back, which you can see from here, just the other side of the signal box, I have now put all the scenic work on the hill. I took a little bit of footage earlier, which I'll put up here now, just so you can see it a bit closer. Essentially, it's lump foliage. I think there's some rubberized horsehair in there, and there is some of the material that I used, if I've got the box here, from Model Scenery Supplies, thicket bushes. I'll bring this into view. This is a great box. For end scale, you've got years worth of stuff there. But that's rather good. So all of that gives an idea of it just being unkempt and overgrown. That needs a fence going in line side, just to complete the protection of the line. And then I will be doing something around the signal box. Pete Townsend suggested possibly an allotment there. I certainly think a cold frame, And that gave me an idea for some figures that I bought a little while ago, which I haven't painted yet. But I will be having a bit of a painting exercise shortly for a reason that I'll mention in another short section in a moment, a bit later in the video. And then the last bit that I will be working on shortly is completing this section here. I'll cover that in and then probably use some of those thicket bushes and just essentially stick them all around there to cover that area off. This is probably going to get some sand on it, which I'll then paint up to look like earth, because I don't want it left bare in the way the rock face is. And once I've got that done, it will be time to turn my attention properly to the wood yard and getting that back in. The main wood pile has gone back in, just to start to help me lay out where things are going to be. One of the things that I do need to do, and which I promised to do, and we'll go on to now, is to start to have a look at using PVA for the water. Now I'm reasonably confident that on sections about as wide as this, there would be no problem from what I've seen online. Now, I think there would be no problem if I was using PVA and lavatory paper. And the lavatory paper is there to help you put waves and things in. But I'm just using plain PVA because this is a canal. And they're pretty placid canals unless there happens to be a boat near. And I want to be sure that this big area, once it's filled in with PVA, will look okay. So after this, we will go on and have a look at the start of the experiment to see whether a big area covered in just PVA can look realistic enough for a canal basin. So I think we'll go and take a look at that. So this is a mock-up that I've made on an offcut, which just has, this is what's forming the borders of the canal presently. It's 3mm foam board, and I'm going to be using just PVA to provide the water base for it. So I want to see that when you have a big area like this, it looks okay. I think it should, having seen Mouldy Raspberry and also Marklin of Sweden. Mouldy Raspberry was doing that's a YouTube channel for those who don't know. Not decaying fruit, and was a canal, so it was just painted on and left to set. And I want also to get an idea of how many coats I might need to use for an area of this size. I haven't spent too much time doing the underside. It's just been painted the same base colour as is on the layout. The layout has also had some of the Woodland Scenic green moss painted onto it, both as powder and also as a wash, just to give areas of green. And I may give it a bit more treatment when I come to finally do that section. The canal barges are in here because one of the things that I noticed with the barges after I painted them up is that none of them had any means of navigation because the 3D models don't have any tillers. So I've spent a bit of time fitting. Let's see if I can get this into focus. I'm not sure where my focus is here actually. Let me see if I can just get this into focus. Oh, there we are. And you can see that I've fitted a tiller. That's 0.6mm nickel rod. The first one I did was this one. And to put this one in, I cut a slit here and sort of sat that in there, which I wasn't too happy with. So with this one, I drilled a little 0.6mm hole here and then fed the tiller into it. And I'm happier now. They have a means of actually navigating, which they didn't have before. I rather like the size of these ones. This is the Scale Scenes kit, which also now has its tiller, as you can see. It's the only one I've made, and it could certainly be made better. Oops, the light's gone out. I may have another go at making one of these. I'll see, but I may equally just buy a couple more of these, because I think this is more likely the sort of thing that would have been used to bring wooden things up, rather than this, which may have been, I think that's, well, I don't know. The aficionados out there can tell me what would have been used for that. I just think these are more likely, and I think a couple more of these may be a better way to go. But what I'm going to do now is shut up, and then I'm going to paint on the PVA. As I understand it, you put a thin coat on. I then will make sure and go through and paint up and take out any air bubbles. I've got to try and do it evenly to avoid air bubbles, because we don't want any bubbly water. That's always undesirable. Okay, so I'll shut up and get on and get this painted up. Well, that's the PVA painted on, and now we just leave it. But we'll come back tomorrow and we'll take a look and see what it looks like. In the last video, I showed you me building an Antics model of a signal box. It had been my intention, and I mentioned it a number of times, to build another signal box from a 7 models kit. This is the kit from 7 models, which builds the signal box, and you bend it to create your signal box. But if I bring this up, you can see that is the whole of the signal box, all 4 sides, and its length is only going to be about that. And that just didn't look to me to be remotely big enough for a signal box here, controlling the junction onto the branch and the other turnouts that are going into the sheds and crossovers and things, which left me in a bit of a quandary. So I started looking around for alternative signal boxes, and I did think at one point of moving the one by the tunnel mouth and putting it here, but even that didn't look really big enough. And I came across the ratio kit. This signal box is absolutely the right size, so I bought it last weekend. And now I'm afraid I got so absorbed in building this signal box that I didn't film any of it in the building, and it is a rather more demanding build than the Antics model. As ever with ratio, you don't get a lot of instructions, but if I open this out now, the basic 4 walls and the rest of that's fairly straightforward. It comes on a really handy base, which I've painted in a concrete colour. The windows are really very interesting. They're brass etch windows, and the tops and bottoms fold in. But you don't fold them at 90 degrees, you fold them slightly wide, and then they act as a spring to hold the window in its place. Now that requires a bit of careful bending, but it did work really very well. And I'll put up here, I took some shots of it sitting, running off of a 9-volt battery through a resistor, because it's only 3-volt lamp that's in there. And it's really very bright there. And here it's running from one of the power distribution boxes that controls the market, and I've turned the market down because it was much too bright. So it's possible this signal box may go to a different distribution board where the dimmer's not turned down as much. It is actually a lovely model to build. It's more demanding to paint, but eventually it's, you know, I was happy I got it to near enough where it wanted to be. The only thing I realized when I was reviewing that clip that you can see inside, and it looks really nice inside, but there's one thing missing: a signalman. I completely forgotten to put a signalman in the box, and the roof is very firmly stuck on now. So, Model U to the rescue. I have a signalman coming with a token, which I'm going to have him either standing waiting for the branch train to come through so he can give the branch train driver the token for the line, or walking back towards the box having just collected the token from the train coming off the branch as a kind of fudge. And I'm really annoyed with myself for forgetting to put the signalman in. And that's why I was saying earlier, that I'll need to be doing some painting, because when that arrives, I've got that figure and 5 others that need painting. So with that, let's move on to the next section of the video. We're a few days on from the last time you saw this after I put the first coat on, and this has now had 2 further coats, so that's 3 coats in all. And I'm really quite pleased, I think, with how it's coming out. But the first coat that I put on, and I don't think this will be a problem on the baseboards because they've, I think, are sealed. I think a lot of it sank into the cork, which is not a surprise really. So it had the effect essentially of sealing the cork. And then the 2 layers that have gone on are starting to give me a little bit of depth. But I obviously don't want loads because, as you can see, this is only about, I think this is 3 millimeters deep. So there's no point me having, you know, huge amounts of water slopping around. And it's giving me the outcome that I wanted, which is good. It's giving me confidence that I think it will work. But the last test is with the matte varnish on. But the last time I put varnish on top of the PVA, it went a bit funny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to varnish, rather helpfully, there's a line in the cork there. I'm going to varnish down to there and then have a look and see how the 2 compare. And in the twinkling of an eye, we will see how it has done. Now, about 2 hours after I put the matte varnish on the top half, I think you can see even there that this is slightly darker, and it certainly is the case to my eye that it's reflecting the light less. And but the important thing, it has not gone strange. It was difficult to see what the last one I'd done. It could have been that the varnish I was using was quite old. That has since gone in the bin. But I prefer the look of this part. It is, as you might expect, duller because it's a matte varnish. But I think that looks better than the unvarnished PVA, which has a reflection off it. And you might even see actually my finger there, how it's reflecting off that. And it's much less so here. And that I think is better than it looking like glass, which is not what I wanted. The important point is that this experiment has been a success. In a few weeks' time, I think, I'll be able to get that done. Now let's go up onto the layout and let you see the work that I've been doing, which you've already had a sneak peek of in the running session that you've seen. Well, here you can see the trees that I've put on. That's all the trees that you saw, including all the trees that I've made up from the conifer kit, except for the very tallest, which I think is probably too tall for the layout. I did decide to cover the hillside before I put more trees on than you saw previously. I put a 2mm and then 4mm summer grass on, first of all, and then over the top of that in patches, put 4mm patchy grass. So in end scale, that's grass at 1 foot and 2 foot high, which is pretty high for grass. And I'm quite pleased with that. I do want to do some more, particularly up around here, but I'm not going to rush at that. I want to think about what it is that I put in its place. I've put the other layer of the weeds along the board edge, and now the lift out bit now sits on top, so that completely covers the gap and gives a nice thick shrubbery to prevent the workers wandering off the edge. I don't think I'm going to put a fence in there. The railway simply told the people, don't fall off the edge. This is the 1940s and health and safety may not have been what it is now. I've put the sand down here and up and over the bridge. You can't see that because it's not in shot. Let me just move it round. There we go. All the way over the bridge and down here, and completed putting the thicket in. And the sand has also gone down. You can see here and here on the edge of the lift out section, and those will be darkened down. But even just that actually has made a huge difference to make it look rather less than painted white foam, which it really does on the flat sections. The carved sections, it looks fine. And I think that is about everything that I've done so far. I put the woodyard back in place just to give me an idea of space, and I've actually got a lot more space there now. I know what I'm really dealing with, and I will put lots of bushes and goodness knows what along the edge at the back here, but we'll see where that takes us. The last thing I wanted to say before I bid you farewell was really a thank you to the Worley Model Railway Club. You'll know that in the last week the club has confirmed that there won't be an exhibition or any future exhibitions of the club at the NEC. Now, you know also that I really looked forward to going to that exhibition. I spent a whole weekend down in Birmingham so I could go to both days. It was a fantastic exhibition again last year, and I just want to say thank you to all the members of the Worley Model Railway Club that have worked on putting that on and then stewarding it. For a single club to hold an event on that scale, I can really understand how much volunteer effort must have gone into that, and also why after 30 years they've decided that enough is enough. And I think we all owe them a real debt of thanks for everything that they've done for us over those 30 years, producing such a fantastic exhibition. But with that, if you've liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up. That all helps. And if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, because it really would be good to have you along. And if you've got any comments, please let me have your comments. I really enjoy getting the comments, and as you'll have seen from this episode, they spark ideas and they help me to create a better layout than I would all on my own. But until I see you again in 3 weeks' time, because I'm busy next week so I won't get much done on the layout, but in 3 weeks' time, that's bye-bye from me. Bye-bye.